Jansen Harris here with the Flying High podcast. We are presented by Got Skills Pro and Ya Socks. Joining me is Hez and Philip. The Falcons, it wasn't so pretty, right? It wasn't so pretty yesterday. They dropped to 3-4. The Bengals did their thing, and they were just rolling. Darn near had three wide receivers go over 100 yards. Hez, I want to start with you, and you're already shaking your head, and I understand. What went wrong for the Falcons yesterday against the Bengals?
It was a complete opposite of what we saw last week against the Niners. I mean, this team, you thinking last week, well, maybe they got something going on, maybe they got some chemistry going on. That Phillip last week by that touchdown by last week by Kyle Pitts, it showed some type of when you have scores like that, plays like that where your players score, it brings the team together. And this week, it just looks like they lost all of that. I don't know what happened. I mean, Mariota's only threw for 124 yards. They're relying on the run game without Cordell. I'm not sure what went wrong, but I do know this Bengals team is on a roll now. I know this Bengals team was struggling in the beginning, but I think some people have forgotten this whole year that this Bengals team was in the Super Bowl last year. These were guys who barely lost, who struggling in the beginning, but now they're starting to roll together. Joe Burrow, 400 yards yesterday. I'm not sure what went on, but it was not what I would say some Falcons fans expected, especially since coming from the game last week.
I agree, man. The defense was pathetic. They couldn't stop anybody. Let's go to you, Philip, on this one. What happened to the Falcons? Is this what you expected? I expected a closer game than this, or what's going on? I just don't know. I don't know. Philip, what's your reaction to the game?
My reaction, plain and simple, is the Falcons, like Hez said, they lost everything from last week. They don't look like the same exact team that beat the Niners last week. And I mean, we have to understand that the Bengals, this is the team that went to the Super Bowl last year, and they're starting to play like it. I feel like they're getting that swagger back that they have been missing since, that magical run they had last year. The Bengals, Joe Burrow, he's one of the best QBs right now in football. Jamar Chase is starting to roll over defenders again. They look like one of the most deadliest 1-2 punches in the NFL right now. The Falcons did not stop that. And I don't think even a fully healthy Falcons team would have beat this Bengals team yesterday. It's hard to kind of be excited about going forward, but for Falcons fans, I just have to say one thing. You're still technically tied for first place in the NFC South. The Bucs have been struggling. The Panthers are not good at all. The Saints are not that good either. The Falcons are still in the mix, even with this ugly loss that they had yesterday. So if I'm a Falcons fan, don't give up hope yet, but I can understand being discouraged by this loss.
Absolutely. And look, if you're a Bengals fan from their perspective, everybody, Joe Mixon, 17 carries, 58 yards, a touchdown, also added 3 catches, 33 yards. He was active. T. Higgins, 5 catches, 93 yards, almost 100 yards. Jamar Chase, he did his thing. 8 catches, 130, 2 touchdowns. The list goes on. Tyler Boyd, 8 catches, 155 yards, a touchdown. Everybody went off. Joe Burrow, 4 total touchdowns. And like you guys mentioned, darn near 500 passing yards. The defense didn't show up at all. The Falcons, they were just, man, they couldn't stop anything. When you're a Bengals team and when you're a team that goes 7 for 11 on third down, it's hard to lose. 29 first downs. They control the time of possession. They controlled everything. Now, let's talk about the play calling. And I don't know if these guys, it's the way the Bengals just schemed against them, or maybe they just couldn't get open, or Arthur Smith refusing to use these guys. Drake London and Kyle Pitts combined for 4 catches and 18 yards total, which isn't good at all. Break this one down to me. Is it the coaches? Do the guys just need to raise their level of play? What's going on with these 2 young studs?
I know that's the thing you said, young studs, and I know they're young, but to me, it is highly unacceptable for the targeting to be that low for offensive weapons like Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Now, I don't know what Arthur Smith has been thinking. I know ever since Cordell Patterson, you can kind of see the offensive theme he has going here. Rely on the run game. Most of the we have good enough players, have the good enough personnel to rely on the run game to where we can make plays but I don't think that scheme is a long-term game plan for success, because once teams figure that out, as we saw yesterday, teams will figure that out and pile that and destroy that. As head coach Arthur Smith, you have to get out there, make a passing play for Drake London. This guy is talented. I don't want to see his rookie year being wasted, just almost blocking all the time for the running back to come up through, or Kyle Pitts blocking. I need to see passing plays for Kyle Pitts and Drake London, because what they've done so far, I don't think it's a long term for success. As Philip said, they're tied for top of the division right now in NFC South. But that's a poor division. That's 3 and 4. You're tied for 3 and 4 for the top of your division. If you want to get ahead in this division, you're going to need to use Kyle Pitts. You saw what we you used them last week. You saw what that did for you. Drake London, when he gets active, he gets active. You need to go ahead and get after it. Marcus Mariota, do something. Marcus Mariota, if you don't like the play calls, I'm sorry, and I know you're not, the main guy there, but if you don't like, you're there to win. You need to go ahead and change the play calling, because this is what their offensive theme right now with the relying on the run. You're relying on the run without your RB1. Without your RB1, you're relying on the run. You need to find something else, because this is not working.
Absolutely. Look, Algier and Huntley, I think these guys are okay, and Mariota doing what he does with his legs and his 6 carries and making some moves out of the pocket. Even Williams, 1 carry, 4 yards, not bad. But of course, Cordell Patterson missing him, that's huge, right? That's huge. But like Philip said, even fully healthy, I believe too, the Bengals are just a better team as well. So I'll throw that in there. But it is unacceptable when you have Kyle Pitts, who some people are going to look at it and say, hey, it's a down year for him. 3 catches, 9 yards. That's unacceptable. I don't know if it's all him, but I'm assuming he needs to step up too. I don't think it's all the play calling. But Arthur Smith, come on, man. You're supposed to be like a genius. You're supposed to be this ultimate play caller. Come on. You got to use him more. And Drake London, come on. You're right. When he's out there, he's active. You throw him the darn ball, he can make things happen. 1 catch, 9 yards. This is ridiculous. I'm shocked that the Falcons only threw the ball 13 times. That's crazy to me. This has shootout written all over it. That's old school. But on to you, Philip. Your thoughts on just the Falcons? Is it the usage of them not using Pitts and London, or are these guys just not getting open?
I think it's a mixture of, if I'm going to say what I have to say, I think it's because they don't trust Mariota to throw these balls to these guys. And that's actually what I truly believe. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe it's the play calling, maybe it's the fact that they're just not getting open. But now I'm starting to see like Mariota's just not, I don't think he can be trusted to throw to these guys. I just don't think he's the QB to do it. I mean, Drake London a few weeks ago, we were talking about how, wow, he's actually on a pretty good pace to have a pretty good rookie year. Now he's barely been targeted the last few weeks. Same thing with Kyle Pitts, had his first touchdown of the season last week. That had everybody thinking, oh my God, Kyle Pitts is finally going to save me in fantasy football. He's going to be my saving grace now. The Falcons are going to be so good now. He's going to be that tight end that he was advertised as. But I just can't think it's the play calling. I can't just think it's the coaching. I feel like as of right now, Mariota isn't the quarterback. We know he's not the quarterback that's going to lead the Falcons to a Super Bowl in the future. But it's gotten to the point too where you have to say to your QB, I'm running routes that I have to run, or I'm getting wide open. We don't have an RB1. We are basically your, method of attack right now and giving us our best chance of winning. If you have a route that you can run, if you're a QB and you can run it in the pocket, then go right ahead and do it. But if we're wide open, we expect you to throw to us. And I know London and Pitts may not be the guys that are going to come flat out and say it to Mariota or to their, challenge their coaches. But at the same time, they're here for a reason. They were drafted rookies, and, Pitts is the highest drafted tight end in NFL history. I mean, it gets to a point where going towards the end of his second year, I wouldn't consider this a down year. I think a down year is Pitts, maybe dropping a lot of catches or maybe being targeted a lot and then just not having a high completion rate. This is just Pitts not being used at all. And I think the Falcons are really going to have to start, looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, we need to get the ball to these guys more if we're going to have any chance of being in these close games or have any chance of really being serious about being a winning team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, And Hez, you brought this up, and it was a phenomenal question from you. I don't know about this team directly taken at 3-4 and literally sitting in first place, but which is that thought process on potentially like we're looking at the quarterbacks in next year's draft?
Yeah.
Looks like on paper, but again, it's just on paper. Could be a strong class, and maybe you're thinking Bryce Young to the Falcons, but right now Falcons seem too good right now, 3-4, sitting atop the NFC South.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the Falcons potentially saying, "Hey, okay, we know we're not that good. We got smacked back to reality by the Bengals.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to, I guess, hold back." Or some people don't believe in tanking, but I think teams tank.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, and I guess it should be a little more specific. Well, let's say it's week 7 right now, or coming into week 8. I say about, week 12, week 13, see where their record's at in the next 5 games or so. If they're 1-4, 1-4, 2-3, I think you might as well go ahead and try and do it, because at this point, to me, and this is a rule I have for basketball, and it somewhat applies to the NFL as well. I believe in basketball, the worst place you can be is middle of the pack. Either because if you're on top of your high seed, you're good, you're in a playoff contention, deep playoff run, or championship. If you're on one of the bottom teams of the league, at least you have a good pick. You're in a good chance of a draft pick. In the middle of the pack, you're at the worst spot because you can't really go anywhere, and that sues for mediocrity. And there's no place where you can go. You can't go. You're too good to be bad and too bad to be good. So where do you go? And I'm saying to myself, yes, they're 3-4 right now. But I'm saying to myself, look, if within the next few games, man, if they can't get it together, if Marcus Mariota, which Philip was right, it seems like in the first few weeks, it seems like he can't be trusted throwing the football, because in pivotal moments he was throwing interceptions. If Kyle Pitts cannot be used, if they're barely winning these games, I say, you know what? Let's just start from scratch. Keeping Pitts and Drake London as the core pieces, keeping Cordell, keeping the key people, Terrell and Casey Hayward on defense, keeping those guys and Grady and those guys. But everything else, let's just start from scratch. Let's see if we can get a quarterback out there. If we can just tank this to get a quarterback, because what are they producing right now? What is Kyle Pitts and Drake London actually producing so far in the season? Coming into week 8, half the season is already over. If they're not doing anything with the next 4 or 5 games, I say let's just tank and let's see if we can get a new quarterback out here that can actually do something.
Okay, that's an interesting take. That might happen. Let's see what happens with this Falcons and the whole NFC South. Let's keep it real. Yeah. It's still wide open. I think Arthur Smith's message is going to be, hey guys, yeah, we got punched in the mouth on the road, but let's come back and realize the Saints aren't who they thought they were. I don't know who the Panthers thought they were. I think there's some Panthers fans who thought they would come in and be good. And there's people like me who didn't think much of them, but thought they would be maybe a little bit better, right? And then Tampa Bay fans, they're shell-shocked. Some people have thought that this team would be favored to go to the Super Bowl or be one of those top teams. I thought that, and I kind of feel how I feel about the Rams about them, where they're just, I don't know. NFC is just a weird one for me. I guess the NFC East, man, they're dominating. But Philip, before we wrap up the broadcast, I want to ask you about Marcus Mariota. And it seems like every week or every other week when he has a bad game or what you're saying, it looks like they don't trust him. Do you think Desmond Ridder, it's about time for him to come in and play?
It's getting to that point where at this rate, why not throw him in there? Let's say we throw him in there in like a blowout. Let's say next week or 2 weeks from now, Panthers are playing. They're getting not Panthers. Falcons are playing. They're getting blown out. Second half starts. It's like the fourth quarter. Let's say they're down by as much as 25 points in the fourth quarter. At that rate, why not give them a little bit of a look? I think by that point, you have to say to yourself, if we're losing games by this point, don't do it right now. But in a few weeks from now, if like Hez said, they're 1-4 in their next couple games, if they get to that point by week 12, week 13, where they're getting blown out still and their playoff hopes are basically going into the wind, I think you may as well give him a few looks, just see how he is. I mean, by that point, he'll have more than enough time to prepare since his last preseason action. He'll have been, on the sidelines behind Mariota by that point. I mean, we may as well get a bit of a look at him. And obviously the NFC South, it's wide open still. So the Falcons, they're going to look at it and say, let's go for this. The Bucs, they're not immortal. They have cracks in their armor. The Falcons have many cracks in the armor as well, but when a team like the Bucs, who people thought would be top of the South and everything like that, it's just not happening. So the Falcons and the Bucs are probably the two most competitive teams easily in that NFC South right now. But I think Desmond Ridder is going to get probably they're going to have a chance to get a look at him. If he's not good, I wouldn't be alarmed, obviously, because it would just be throwing him into the pack of wolves. But at the same time, if Ridder impresses and let's say gets a few touchdowns here and there and say he's throwing to London and to Pitts, Arthur Smith's going to have a really hard choice to look at Mariota and say, yeah, you're still the starting QB when Ridder has done exactly what he's already been asked to do. So we'll see what happens, but it's hard to still get a firm grasp on if we should see Desmond Ridder yet.
Look, if we see, I'm gonna say this: if we see 2 more bad games of Marcus Mariota, I think, hey, why not? Why not throw Desmond Ridder in the mix? But the thing that's interesting about Marcus Mariota to me is it's weird because it's week by week. 1 week he looks terrible, and then we're all put Ridder in. Next week, boom. He's back. He's playing well. He's a tricky guy because at the end of the season, too, it's going to be a trick. Do you bring back Marcus Mariota, especially if he stays healthy? He gave you 8 good games, but 9 bad games, or 9 good games, but 8 bad games. He's one of those guys. You don't know what to expect. He might come out here and just, I don't know, might wow some people. I don't know. But let me get your thoughts on that. Should we see Marcus Mariota maybe even as early as the next game, or? And I know we talk about this every week. Where do you see Desmond Ridder coming into playing a factor in this? Do you see him maybe starting soon and Marcus Mariota go into the bench, or do you think maybe Arthur Smith rides this one out?
Well, he shouldn't ride it out. No. I think it's going to cost him his job if he rides it out. But I think. Well, I'm gonna play devil's advocate real quick. Like you said earlier, they didn't have a chance against the Bengals. Not this Bengals for the last 3 weeks. Bengals, they didn't have a chance against these Bengals. So I'll cut him some slack. However, like you said, it's every week, every other week. It's he did good, he did bad, he did good, he did bad. I would say, in this next 4 to 5 game span, if their record, I don't care, if he throws 124, 240, 300, you have to win these games, man. You have to win these games. And to me, the next 4 to 5 games, if they're 2-4, 1-4, I say go ahead and throw Desmond in there because what else can you lose? What else can you lose by throwing Desmond Ridder in there? Right now, to me, it seems like Marcus Mariota is just a clock management. With all the handoffs he's doing, with all the scrambling he's doing, with all the 10 to 15 yard passes, it just more looks like clock management. And I think what the Falcons franchise needs is a quarterback, not someone who can manage the clock.
Okay. And Philip, you wanted to add something before we wrap up the broadcast on Marcus Mariota and these Falcons.
Yeah, I just want to add on because we're talking about Desmond Ridder, we're talking about Marcus Mariota. You see what's going on currently in Indianapolis. For example, Matt Ryan has been benched the rest of the season. That's a veteran quarterback, who's a former Falcons QB. That is a veteran quarterback that has led his team to a Super Bowl appearance, who's been in former MVP. I get that Matt Ryan does not have the same skill set that he used to have, everything like that. But, I mean, who's to say that the Falcons may not follow suit sooner than that also? I mean, it's very possible the Falcons could do exactly what the Colts did. Frank Reich, the head coach of the Colts, has said that regardless if Matt Ryan's healthy or not, he's not going to be our starter. And I don't know exactly who the Colts starter is now that Matt Ryan's going to be benched. But, I mean, who knows? The Falcons could just be doing the exact same thing sooner rather than later when it comes to Marcus Mariota.
Interesting point. Do you guys want to throw in your take on Matt Ryan being benched while we're at it? Hey, since we're talking about it, Philip, let's go to you. What's your thoughts on him? He's been sacked a lot and leads the league with 9 picks. Are you happy about that move? Yeah. Do you have thoughts on Matt Ryan being benched?
It's not all Matt Ryan's fault, in my opinion. it's not. I think that offensive line in Indianapolis is not really giving him much help. He's been sacked a lot. He's fumbled a lot. I get it. But, I mean, Indianapolis is not at all a Super Bowl winning team, in my opinion, and they've proven it a lot, especially in the past year. And I don't think Frank Reich is the next head coach that's going to lead them to the promised land. And they haven't had a true quarterback that's really jumped at them since Andrew Luck. They've had a quarterback carousel basically going on in Indianapolis. I'm not really sure what to make of it, but at the same time, you just feel bad for Matt Ryan, especially with everything he's done in his career, hoping that he could just get one last chance. And this is probably it for him. This probably shows him that he's probably done. His playing days are not really going to be the same as they were now. It's hard to see, especially with him being a former Falcons QB, but I think the days of Matt Ryan are very much numbered at this point.
Absolutely. I think the same thing. I'm looking at Matt Ryan and say, hey, he's getting older. I look at the Colts as an organization. They were acting like they were a quarterback away from competing and making a deep run into the playoffs. Matt Ryan has turned the ball over a lot through the air. Yes, it's not all his fault, but he showed some of those same issues late in Atlanta. I just don't think he's the same guy as he was in 2018. Hez, do you have any thoughts before we wrap up the broadcast on Matt Ryan?
Yeah, it's hard to see, growing, especially, he's our type of generation of quarterback, seeing all these guys go now or getting benched. But I think it shows leadership from the Colts saying, hey, we got to take responsibility, got to take accountability. We got to do what's best for our organization, something that the Falcons should take note on. But as far as the Colts, yeah, I mean, I think it was time to go. It's time for him to be benched. The one thing that the Colts got, they didn't get Matt Ryan. They got the remains of Matt Ryan and what is left in the tank. And so this is, we had to expect this. He didn't really put any weapons around him. What would you expect without putting any real weapons around Matt Ryan? He's, like I said, the remains of Matt Ryan, and this is the result you're going to get.
Absolutely, guys. Great job today. I'm Jansen Harris with the Flying High podcast. Look, these guys pay attention to the Falcons. Two Falcon analysts right here. You have Philip, you have Hez. Great job, guys. We are presented by Got Skills Pro and Yas Socks.
Thank you.
Bless one.
Yes, you guys have a blessed one.